All right, welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It is Sunday evening, about a little after 6:30 Eastern Time. Just watched the Warriors extend their season, win a first-round series, take the Kings out, and win a huge road game. And first of all, what a hell of a sports weekend! We've got NBA playoff stuff, the draft, the hockey's been pretty good. If you've caught any of that. The Panthers are going to be playing in Game 7 here pretty quick.
Tonight?
And yeah, in a few minutes. It's coming on in a few minutes. Yeah,
I'm gonna
6:30.
record that.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible sports weekend. Yeah, I should say, we're coming to you live from Tornado Alley because we're in South Florida and like literally a mile away from where I live, there was a big freaking tornado that apparently destroyed a bunch of stuff. So,
oh man. Florida continues to I don't want to say impress, but Florida continues to confuse. It is definitely a very strange place to live, as people ones who've lived here our whole lives.
Yeah, well, it shows you how much I'm paying attention because I'm getting texts. I eventually I get texts and I check my phone and they're like, "Yeah, did you know there was a tornado?" I was like, "Really? Oh, I don't know."
He's too busy. He's too busy reading my text talking about the Miami Heat, so we're not paying any attention to what's going on around us. So anyway, Clark, another masterpiece by Steph Curry.
Well, that's the most. That's the most.
Most points in a Game 7 and 50 in a Game 7.
Yeah.
Which is, it's incredible. I mean, we've said, I feel like everything to be said about Curry is, it's all been said. The guy is just obviously first ballot, one of the greatest players ever. What he did in the finals last year, kind of saving the Warriors season was just unbelievable. I mean, they were in big trouble against the Celtics, and he did that. And then today, when they needed him, and it's every game, the guy's getting 30 every game. I mean, it's amazing for a guy who takes that level of difficulty of shots to do that every single game.
Well, the game started today and he's hitting some shots and I'm like, in the first quarter, and I'm just like, swish, swish. I'm like, oh, okay. And it just kind of kept happening. I'm like, okay, he's going to score like 40 points tonight. Like it's, and it wasn't just threes, he was, and this is, I guess people don't talk enough about this, but he's really good driving to the basket,
Yep.
doing like floaters and getting up there and getting layups and stuff. So yeah, really, incredible, performance. I mean, it, do I believe in the Warriors now? I'm picking them to beat the Lakers. And they did win 2 road playoff games, including Game 7. So, offensively, I like what I'm seeing. Defensively, I don't know. I need to see more because in this series, it felt like both teams were just kind of running up and down the floor. So it's hard for me to kind of tell. But, the thing is, the playoffs, it all comes down to matchups, and it's like I still have questions about the Warriors, but I really have questions about the Lakers. I don't think LeBron has another gear to go to. I think this is kind of it. I think he's being cautious because of the foot injury. So anyway, we can talk about
that. No, we'll definitely get to spin it forward to that. But just on this game, I wrote my notes on this game. I just wrote no rebounds, no rings. The third quarter, they got absolutely destroyed. I don't know that I've ever seen a team lose that badly on the glass in my life. I think they had 13 offensive rebounds in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like, teams don't have 13 offensive rebounds in a game. Like, they did it in about 5 minutes.
Rebounds for the game, and he had like 11 offensive rebounds.
It's insane to me. And I was thinking, like, I need to really look this up, but I really feel like these games come down to who wins the third quarter. Like, if you look at these games, especially the Warriors, because the Warriors are known for coming out and just blitzing you in the third quarter, and then you're behind the 8 ball and you're never going to catch them. And that seemed to happen in this series. Like, every game the Kings won, I feel like they won the third quarter, and that's what allowed them to win the game. So, the Kings just got out physicaled, and I hate to use the phrase they wanted it more, but Sabonis played such a great first half, and I was like, okay, this is what the Kings need. This is how they're going to win. Because honestly, if he'd have played like he played in the first half for the rest of the series would be over. The Kings would have won it already. But because he's been so inconsistent, and one of my huge pet peeves watching these games, Clark, is when guys miss layups or they miss shots 4 feet from the basket when they're right. Sabonis gets so many point-blank shots that he can't make. And then the rebounding thing, he's not jumping for the ball. Like he's boxing out and then just letting the ball go over his head. And it just, so I just feel like that really cost them the game.
That's the same complaint I have about Bam Adebayo on the Heat. I feel like, and again, he played pretty well in the game today, but I just feel like when you, like a guy like that, when he gets close to the basket, I'm like, I need you to be making most of those hook shots that are right there. I need you to be getting all those layups. Like I can't have you missing those because that's just too, if you're shooting a jump shot and you miss, fine, whatever. I can live with that. But if you're going to get that close, and so same thing with Sabonis. And again, Sabonis had, him and De'Aaron Fox had some bad fouls in this game, and Sabonis the last 2 games, and you can't be getting in foul trouble like that. That really hurts you, and they had to take him out of the game for a few minutes, and that.
Well, not only that, the Warriors were in the penalty within 3 minutes into the third quarter.
Yeah,
like you can't do that. And by the way, the amount of missed free throws in this game was staggering. I think it's like 20. I think each team missed like 10. It was insane. But but listen, I feel the Kings had it there on the plate for them. They just couldn't deliver when it mattered. And Curry was ridiculous. Once that run happened in the third quarter, then Curry just put the nail in the coffin. So I feel like, but overall positive season for the Kings. Like De'Aaron Fox looks like he's going to be a really good. I think he's going to make All NBA this year. And it looks like him and Sabonis, that's a really good foundation to build on with Monk coming off the bench. So I really like where they're at. As far as the Warriors go, look, I think we said this when the playoff matchups came out. It's hard for me to believe in the Lakers or the Warriors, but you look at the matchups and it worked out for them. Right. They get to play Sacramento, who doesn't really play very good defense and doesn't really have a real strong inside presence to attack the Warriors where they're vulnerable. So, that's basically how you have to beat them. You've got to either be, and I've been screaming about it the whole series, the Kings have to go faster. And they just didn't play fast enough in this game. They had to beat them with their athleticism. They're not going to beat them with their half-court execution. Like the Warriors are going to be better at that than you are. So, that's how you have to beat this game, or you got to pound them inside. And Sabonis was able to do that a little bit, sparingly, but overall not enough to help them win the series. So just these matchups just worked out really well. So we'll go through. Let's go through the other 2 playoff games, and then we'll go through the teams individually and talk about, because I just went through a list of, all right, these are the flaws of these teams that will hold them back. So the game previous to that, so the Heat managed to win a road game against the Knicks. First of all, before we get to the game today, great win by the Heat, but Clark, the performance by Jimmy Butler in the last 2 games against Milwaukee. 56 and 42 points.
Yeah.
It's insanity to me that he was able to do that. At no point was I sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, Butler will be fine. He's going to go off and go crazy. Like, none of us were expecting. This is like, this Heat team is one of the lowest expectations I've ever had for a Heat team, and they've already far exceeded them.
Yeah.
To win a playoff series after losing the first play-in game and beat the number 1 seed doing it, like, it's just crazy. And that the 56-point game, that was an all-timer, and we have been fortunate enough to see all of the Miami Heat franchises, their franchise history, all of their big moments. And other than, the moments leading to a championship, like, this is way up there.
Yeah. So the fact that they were behind in the fourth quarter in both of those games.
Yep.
And like in game 4, they were behind like late in the game.
Yep.
And Milwaukee,
it was like 12. It was like 12 points with 4 minutes to go or something.
Milwaukee
like that.
just literally fell apart. 2 games in a row. I mean, it reminded me of the bubble when the Heat were playing the Bucks in the bubble and they kicked their ass. Um, I mean, I don't know, like, and it's just so funny because when the Bucks won the title, we're like, all right, good job, Giannis. He scored 50 in the closing game. We're like, all right, good job. I mean, we didn't necessarily think differently of the Bucks. We were just like, yeah, they still got some problems, and the coach doesn't really adjust to stuff, and they give up all these open threes, and like, I don't, this is kind of odd. And they gave him an extension. It's like, all right, they won the title, whatever. But the same stuff we were saying like 3 years ago, we're saying right now.
Yeah, so it's funny to me to listen to now like Mike Budenholzer get criticized, and I'm listening to that podcast, The Mismatch. It has Kevin O'Connor and Chris Vernon, and so Chris Vernon's like, "Oh, was he a bad coach when they won the championship?" And I'm almost like, kinda, like it's just kind of funny to me. Like we were criticizing the guy the entire playoff run, and then they go on this thing against the Phoenix Suns and win the championship because a couple of plays go their way. And but the whole time we were just like, I don't know about this Budenholzer guy, man. Doesn't adjust, like all of these problems. Like I'm not sure about this. And then when they needed it, and listen, let's get into the I mean. Well, first of all, to close the book on the Heat, look, I think that that Heat performance by Butler, I mean, he's writing his own story in the books now. I mean, I think he's probably going to be looking at the Hall of Fame career at some point because right now he probably doesn't have the accolades that would necessitate that, but I mean, if you watch the guy play, I mean, this guy is a prime time playoff performer. He had 2 40-point games in the finals. Like the way he played last year, when they made it all the way to the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the way he's playing right now, like it's absolutely insane. I can't believe that happened. Now I can't believe the Bucks did not double team him at any point. Yeah. They just literally are allowing him to run up the floor unimpeded. What, like in the fourth quarter of the game? What do you think he's going to do?
Yeah.
Like what what do you think's going to happen? So it blows my mind. And by the way, it's like they're putting Drew Holiday on him, and Drew Holiday is getting destroyed.
Yeah.
Like Butler is just like, it's no problem, I got this guy. Because normally Drew Holiday is like physically superior to the guy he's playing against.
He's not against Jimmy Butler.
Right, but Jimmy Butler's not only physically stronger than him, he's bigger than him. So there's literally nothing Drew Holiday can do. And Jimmy's like, oh, okay. And he's talking shit to him the entire time. Like he's posting him up and saying, you suck, you can't guard me, blah, 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 staring him down. Like it's the definition of when you see a guy doing that, you have to adapt, change your defense to do so. I don't know. Maybe have Giannis guard him. Maybe
for a stretch, just a few minutes. Right. Maybe have Giannis guard him.
So they gotta do something to just slow him down because that's all they needed. You slow him down a little bit, they would have won.
Yeah.
And the choke job in Game 5, I mean, that's historic. To allow the 2.1 seconds them to throw the ball over everybody, they don't have any big guys in the game. And then it blows my mind the way that happened, and Milwaukee should be absolutely criticized for that. I don't, what they should do. I don't know what they should do with the coach, but they need to change some stuff, and it's going to be hard with the roster that they have, which is why, when people were saying, oh, this Milwaukee team, I think they might win multiple titles. I was kind of like, I don't know about that.
He's not the same guy anymore. And
right.
that dramatically changes stuff for them. I mean, they need to because you're not getting it. It wasn't just Giannis doing stuff. It was Giannis, and then Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday gave them enough, and then they won the finals in 6 games.
Well, and we saw what worked. What works is Giannis setting screens for Middleton or Holiday to them either create a shot for themselves or create for someone else. That's what needs to be done. In the fourth quarter and overtime of this game, Giannis is shooting mid-range jumpers. He's trying to post people up 10 feet from the basket.
Yeah.
Like, this is not your strength. So it just blows my mind. All the stuff that they had to do to win the title, they just didn't do any of it in this series. And so, now let's get down to brass tacks here. The criticism of Giannis because of this, to me, has gone off the rails. Like, we need to take it easy on this. Yes, the Bucks lost. Yes, yeah, but Giannis missed 3 games basically of a 5-game series.
Yeah.
Okay, you got beat. Okay, you didn't stop Jimmy Butler. At no point did the coaching make adjustments. There is plenty of blame to go around. This is not all, Giannis should have done this or Giannis should have done that. We need to, face facts with Giannis, right? Yes, he's a great player. He's a superstar. He's probably the best player in the league. He's won multiple MVPs. Okay, but there are some limitations. Like, he's not the kind of guy who can just, we'll get like Curry. We'll give you the ball and you make plays off of it and carry us. He's not that kind of guy. He's not an offensive engine the way Jokic is. He's just not. That's not a knock. It's just the guy does so many other incredible things. It's like when the Lakers had Shaq and Kobe. Shaq was kind of useless at the end of close games because they were just going to foul him. And the same thing happened in this game. Giannis is shooting all these free throws. So we need to back off on, Giannis is, do we downgrade Giannis, or the best player in the league trophy is up for grabs, or all of this stuff that I've heard the past, since this series ended. Like, okay, Giannis should take some criticism. I get it. But we need to slow down on, people going as far. Are we sure Giannis is good? Like, is Giannis really all that?
That's when it gets ridiculous. It's like, are we sure he's as good as we thought he was? I mean, well, if we're going to do that, I thought winning a championship was the last thing that mattered. So if we're going to start doing that, then good Lord. So you're going to win a title and people are going to be like, yeah, I don't know. I still don't think he's that good. Is that what we're going to start doing?
Yeah. Look, he needs some shot making around him. By the way, you know who else needs that? LeBron James.
Yeah.
Okay, like this, it's not crazy to say, this guy needs a little bit of help in order for them to win. Like, and their wings for the Bucks were all getting destroyed. They can't guard anybody. So this is not all on Giannis. I'd put a pretty small percentage on Giannis. The other thing that I heard about this, going back to this series that kind of bothered me was on Speak on Fox, Emmanuel Acho was like, not trying to be unimpressed by Jimmy Butler scoring 56 points. He was doing the Skip Bayless where he was like, yeah, but if you can do that, why don't you do that more often? Why didn't you do that in the previous game? Why don't you do that more in the regular season? Like, this is what you're capable of delivering. Why don't I don't get it. It's just like, it's unbelievable. The guy scored 56 points in a playoff game. He scored 42 the next game. He's had multiple 40-point playoff games, not only in the playoffs, in the finals. And you're like, yeah, can't he do that more often though? It's just like,
really? Come on.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This Miami Heat team with fucking hardly any talent on it. We're using, we got Tyler Hero out, Oladipo's out. We picked up Kevin Love off the scrap heap.
Kevin Love's old ass.
Right. We're using, and by the way, Kevin Love's been good, and they need him.
Exactly.
That's the crazy part. So I'm sorry, man. What the Heat did here, fucking amazing. And we're gonna talk about that more in a few minutes. But when we're talking about number 8 seeds being number 1 seeds, but I'm sorry, that was an all-time performance by Miami, and I think Miami should be given more credit than we're blaming the Bucks. I think the Bucks deserve plenty of blame. Don't get me wrong; they screwed a lot of things up.
If it wasn't for the injury, I don't know if the series would have had a different result.
Right.
So
right. So anyway, sorry. So let's talk about the Heat today. So I thought the Heat's level of experience obviously showed in this game. What happened in the second half, the way that the Heat were able to adjust pretty quickly from the first half to the second half on defense and really shut down a lot of the stuff that Jalen Brunson was doing. They really didn't allow him to get to the basket in the same way he was. They were putting guys in his face. And, I was confused by the first half because I'm like, the Knicks aren't really a great offensive team. Like when they have 55 points at halftime, I'm kind of like, is that really who they are? That was, I was just kind of thinking, really? Like, is this what, when Obi Toppin is making threes, I was just kind of like, this doesn't seem right. So, I think the second half, I think this is how this series is going to look. These games are going to be knocked down, drag out. It's going to be tough to score. It's going to be tough to get to 100 points. Like, it's going to come down to some individual, performances. I thought Kevin Love played great. I mean, his energy they really needed today. His rebounding they really needed. I mean,
Kyle
bringing
Lowry. You know,
Kyle Lowry.
just
Where did that
Kyle
come
Lowry,
from?
literally. I mean, it feels like he just gets in the game and he just tries to put his big ass in people's way and just cause problems. And to be honest, though, in this kind of series, that's kind of what you need. He's a veteran who's really smart, and he's going to find all these little ways to get turnovers and get little things like that, and that could end up being the difference.
Yeah, he's crafty. This is a series for crafty players like Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love. Like, they know how to play in playoff games, and a lot of the Knicks guys really don't. And when Jalen Brunson is like your leading scorer, and I get this is the thing. I'm not hating on Jalen Brunson. Okay, he's really good. He's an all-star, all-NBA type player, but he does have limitations. He's not a Steph Curry level scorer. He's not going to just, he can't just get it done no matter who's guarding him. And in a series like this, where, again, you're kind of dependent on some guys that I don't know that they're going to make shots, especially when Julius Randle's not out there, it just makes it really hard. And the Heat have the ability to really make it tough on you. They really close it off near the basket. And so it makes it difficult. So, yeah, so I Heat, great win by the Heat today. I mean, look, if you're the Miami Heat, I mean, Jalen Rose said it after the game, like, if Jimmy Butler's hurt, it looked like he sprained his ankle at the end of that game there. If Jimmy Butler's just injured, just rest him for game 2, because the game 2 is on Monday, game 3 is until Friday. So they would get a lot of rest there. Now, my opinion...
Game 2's Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday, sorry. Game 2 is Tuesday.
Okay.
Game 3 is until Saturday, I think. Yeah. Okay. So they get 3 days in between in the games.
Right.
In between games. So I think the Heat have if Julius Randle, if he continues to be out, like, the Heat definitely have a chance. I think the Knicks are going to need him. They're going to need somebody to get more scoring punch in there. And I think we'll see what happens. If I'm of the mind that, Jimmy Butler, like, see how he is. If he can go, I'd go, especially if Julius Randle doesn't play game 2, I would try to go for the kill in game 2. But that's me.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's just, I guess I'm going to pick the Heat to win this series. I mean, I felt like I thought the Knicks had more guys, but I'm just going to take them, I guess. And, at a certain point, it becomes like, they got all these undrafted guys. Well, I mean, Gabe Vincent, like, hits shots. I've seen Strus hit some big shots. I've seen, Duncan Robinson, he doesn't play that much, so it's hard for me to criticize. I mean, I'd like him to get more scoring, but I mean, and Bam, I'm critical of him, but he, if he's out there getting rebounds and he kind of scores within the flow of the offense, then that kind of works. I think I was watching Hoops Tonight, and Jason Timpf was just saying, the Bam Adebayo being aggressive on offense, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think that's really going to be his thing, and that's fine, I guess. I'll stop really expecting that, but and the other thing is, it's just they're really well coached. I mean, against Milwaukee, I mean, this Heat team has not won a championship. And it looked like they had more experience than the Bucks did. I mean, the Bucks completely fell apart. The Heat are behind, and it's just like, all right, let's just keep playing.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. The Heat were more well coached. They were more prepared. They adjusted during the series. Hey, adjustments in a playoff series. How about that? They start. No, and I think, and what I would say is this about Bam: he needs to be aggressive as a creator. He doesn't necessarily need to score 20 points a game. But he needs to be aggressive in terms of, because he's one of the better creators they have on the offensive side of the ball. All the dribble handoffs and the pick and rolls and all that stuff. To me, that's what he needs to be doing, because that's what he's best at. He's never going to be a great scorer, but he's going to have to make some foul line jumpers from time to time to keep the defense honest. But that should be what his role is. He should be the offensive hub. He should be, you should be able to create stuff off of him, and that's kind of what they do. So the Heat play to their strength, but the Heat are well coached. They play together. They know what to do. They've played with each other a pretty good amount of time now, so they have some advantages. I would say that about this series, like, before the series, I thought, okay, the Knicks are a little bit better. The Knicks should probably win because they just have more guys, but it's not overwhelming. They don't have a crazy amount more talent. They have a little bit more talent, but not much. Miami's level of experience could easily make up for that. So we'll see. But the Heat taking game one obviously is a huge step in the right direction for them.
Right.
And if depending on how Butler is, they're definitely going to have a chance in this series. If the games look like they did today, where you're struggling to get over 100, the Heat are going to be in the game and they're going to have a chance.
Right.
And if you get some shooting, from Love and Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and whatever, if you can get a little bit of production from them, then you got a chance. And that's all. That's all you can ask for. And I will say, there's a lot more pressure on the Knicks.
Yeah.
I mean, New York is crazy right now. They're thrilled with this team. They want them to win so badly. The pressure to me is...
You saw the game. I mean, Chris Rock was there and Ben Stiller was there and just all these people were there and they're all like crazy excited about everything because, the Knicks have been a dumpster fire for 20 years, essentially. So they're like, please be good. Please, So.
Yeah, so I just feel like the Heat, after the Heat won that series against the Bucks, it's all gravy. Like the Heat are playing the Heat are playing with house money, and the thing is, Jimmy, what you're going to get from Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's not afraid of anybody. He's coming at you the whole time. They may not win, but it won't matter. I mean, he's he's going to give maximum effort, and if they can stick with it on defense, I mean, that's what I'm looking for in games like this: defense and rebounding. If they can,
the rebounding was a little bit of a problem in this game, and I feel like that may be a problem throughout the series. So,
yeah, it's definitely going to be a problem, especially if they have Randall and Mitchell Robinson out there at the same time.
Right.
It's going to be a challenge with their size and athleticism. The good thing about Mitchell Robinson is you can just foul him because he's not a good free throw shooter.
Yeah, God, he's a really bad free throw shooter. Oof.
So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so let's move on. Nuggets Suns last night, man. Boy, I hate to keep saying I told everybody so, Clark, but boy, the Denver Nuggets look really good. Look like they've played together a little while, huh?
Yeah, well, Stephen A. Smith was before the Heat game. He said, the Nuggets are coming. They're not playing around. They think they've really been disrespected. They're the number one seed. They've been playing together a while. He pointed, Jamal Murray. Last time we saw him in the playoffs was in the bubble where he was putting up 40 points. So yeah, like all the people just like, oh, you can't trust the Nuggets. Okay.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing I want to point out, the hypocrisy in the sports media where, I hate to say that we're star fuckers and we just follow the major teams, but we are. This is how it works. I understand the Lakers and the Knicks sell time, they sell. Like you need them to be good. The big markets, I totally get it. But that shouldn't leak into our crappy analysis of this. Okay, the whole before the playoffs runs from the All-Star break to now, all I've been hearing is you can't trust Denver in the playoffs. Like, do it in the postseason. That's what I hear on a lot of these shows. Do it in the postseason. It's like, yeah, they have done it in the postseason. Like, have you guys not paid attention? It's like, oh well, they made it to the bubble, whatever. It's like, yeah, when they had their whole team and everybody was healthy, they made it to the conference finals. Yeah. So that's all I can say. Yeah, they lost in the playoffs the last 2 years. One of them they lost to the Warriors, right? The team that won the championship.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what to say if you can't figure out that they're really good. Because, last night that Denver kind of pretty much carved them up on offense. And, I've kind of been saying that the whole time. Now, back to Jamal Murray. When Jamal Murray's hurt his knee in 2021, March of 2021, he was right there with Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. It was a competition between those three guys, these young guards, right? Who's the best? These guys are all awesome. Looks like they're going to be fantastic, right? And because of the injury, everybody just seemed to forget about it. And you saw Donovan Mitchell didn't play that great against the Knicks in the last series, right? Devin Booker's absolutely killing it.
Right.
Just killing it right now. But Jamal Murray was right there with them. And it's just like we've completely forgotten about it. He's going for 40 points in playoff games, so it's just kind of like, You know what? If you guys can't see it, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Everybody fell for it with Phoenix. Look, now I'm not saying it's one game. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, they got this. It's over with."
Yeah,
No, no. Phoenix is really good. Like Kevin Durant and Booker are going to have a couple of games where they go off. They combine for 75 points, and it's going to be tough to beat them. Denver has some defensive issues. Yes, they do, but they have played together. They have the athletes. They have the size and the length. They have everything that you would need, right? And they were trying like hell. Phoenix was trying like hell to attack Jokic in the pick and rolls with Ayton, and they did okay. They did okay, but they didn't do great. It wasn't like, oh my God, Denver was like, what are we going to do about this? It wasn't anything like that. So to me, in that game, I think, Denver has got some defensive stuff they got to work out. With some of the pick and roll stuff and some of the, some of it's just effort, just getting back and lined up on defense. But I think those are things that are fixable. What I saw in this game is the stuff that Denver has to work on is fixable. Phoenix, I think, might have some issues. Like Kevin Durant. I
don't see how they're going to win the whole series because I don't see how they're going to win 4 games.
Right.
I just don't like. It's like, oh, because with them it feels like you basically need Booker and Durant need to play really well, but you probably need Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton to play well too. And so I don't know how. Now granted, they'll play better. Everybody will probably play better in the next game for Phoenix. But I just, over the course of the series, I just feel like the Nuggets, I don't feel like the Suns can really adjust that much. They don't have much adjusting that they can do. They don't have any moves. So. Well,
yeah. The other thing, and I heard this brought up on a podcast, was that they only shot, Kevin Durant shot 3 3-pointers and Devin Booker shot 1. Like, they're not shooting enough threes. And so the problem is when you're doing all of these mid-range jumpers, which they have 3 players that are really good at it. I'm not saying you can't kind of survive that way.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're doing that and Denver's getting better shots on the other end. And the problem is it's not like, oh, well, we'll just do this and that'll help us stop Denver's offense. Denver's offense isn't like that. It's multiple. They can do all of these different things. And Jokic is wherever your weakness is, he's going to find it. Right. So it's not as simple as, oh, we'll just play harder on defense and that will solve it. It won't. Denver's got all kinds of things that they can go do. And as soon as they started, oh, we got to stop Jamal Murray, he just started whipping passes to open guys. So I think it's going to be a problem over the course of the series. And plus, Phoenix has got to get production from other guys, and they don't really have – like they have some guys off their bench who are capable of making an open shot, but they're not knockdown shooters.
Right.
So it's going to be up and down from Torrey Craig and Josh Okogie and the guys that they're going to have to play. So it's just going to become difficult. And when you get to Game 6 or Game 7, that's where the fatigue starts to come in because Durant and Booker are going to have to play a lot of minutes in order to accomplish this.
In Denver, you have to adjust to. It's a little bit of an adjustment because of the altitude. So
right,
yeah.
Yeah, so I just feel like, no, this is going to go 6 or 7 games. It's going to be a battle, but I like where Denver's at. I feel like they have the bodies to kind of shore up some of the defensive problems that they might have, and their offense is just going to be good. I just don't see Phoenix really stopping a whole lot of it. I think they can slow it down a little bit, maybe make it more competitive, but I just think at the end of the day, Denver's got too many counters to anything that you're going to do. And the other thing is, who's going to guard Jamal Murray? Like Booker's going to guard him the whole game, and then he's going to have to score 30 on the other side.
No.
Like it's just going to be really complicated. And Ayton is going to have games where he gets into foul trouble because Jokic is abusing him. So I just feel like Denver just has way more places to go, and I really like their chances in this series.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to see Warriors Nuggets, so I'm picking the Warriors to beat the Lakers in the next round.
Yeah, I think that would be incredible. A little bit of a rematch they played last year in the first round. I would love to see that. Okay, so before we move on, we'll talk about the series going, the teams going forward. So I did a little bit of research on, the biggest upsets in NBA history because I texted you, when they won the series, like, is that the biggest upset in NBA history? And so we kind of I started thinking about it, started reading, read a few articles on it. So to me, there's a handful of them that are really big, right? So there's the 90, I mean, they started playing, they
7
putting
games
eight,
that started in.
well, they started playing 8 teams in each conference and seeding them in 1984, 1985.
Okay.
So we're talking since then. And then in 2004, all the first round series went to 7 games. So, so just in terms of upsets, there's obviously the 94 Nuggets beating the Sonics in the 8-1 matchup. The Sonics won the first 2 games at home by double digits. Denver won 3 games in a row. They won the last 2 games, both in overtimes.
Yeah, I remember.
So
we were watching that, I think.
Yeah, that was one of those where it was just like, there's no way Denver's supposed to win this series. Like that was literally like if they played 10 times, Seattle's winning that. Seattle's winning 7. There's no way Denver should have won that series.
Seattle was, I mean, in the mid and late 90s, Seattle was one of the best teams in the Western Conference year after year after year.
Yep. That was a really good Seattle team. Gary Payton, Sean Kemp.
And they did end up making it to the finals. And they took that Bulls team that won 72 games to 6 games.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was that to me, like, wow, that was like, because you look at this Heat series. I mean, look, you got the injury to Giannis, like the Heat have beaten them before, like it's, it is a little, to me, it's a little bit colored by that. Now that being said,
he is a great player. I know
right.
He doesn't get as much credit, but he's a really good player. So that kind of,
right.
Yeah.
It does mitigate it, and the win difference between the 2 teams was not as big as some of the other ones. I think Denver the Denver Nuggets in 94 won like 42 games, and the Sonics won like 63 or something. So it was a big gap. There's not as much of a gap this year in the NBA because teams just didn't run out to any great regular season records. The 2007 Warriors beating the Mavericks. I mean, to me, that's another one where no, they're not. Yeah. There's no way.
The Mavs have just made the finals. Dirk won the MVP. Right.
Yeah, there's no way the Warriors are going to win that series. And the thing is, the Warriors really didn't play together until like after the All-Star break because all the guys were injured. Like they didn't really put that team together that way until like after the trade deadline. And then they came into the playoffs, got hot, and beat them. But that was like, oh my God. Now, when you watch the series now, like I've gone back and watched it, and the way that Warriors team played is kind of the precursor to the way the NBA is played now. Like they played fast, they shot threes, they played at a ridiculous pace. Like it was this helter-skelter, whatever it was. But it's kind of funny. Like you watch that now and everybody's like, you can't play like that. You can't keep that up. And that's like they were playing slow compared to the way we play today.
Right.
Now, just in terms of upsets, not including the 8 beating 1, but I mean, the 95 Rockets, to me, take the cake for everybody. They beat the Spurs, which were the best team in the regular season that year in the conference finals, and Akeem Olajuwon embarrassed them. And then they go and beat the Magic in the finals. I mean, to me, that run by the Rockets, that's got to be, as far as, because they,
right?
Yeah, because they won the championship, that's got to be up there as one of,
well,
that the combination.
3-1 to the Phoenix Suns with Charles Barkley. And, they somehow came back and won that. And then David Robinson won the MVP. And then Olajuwon, I think Kenny Smith has said, Olajuwon was like, he's got my trophy, Kenny. And Olajuwon just destroyed him in the conference finals.
Yeah, and the 4 games they won in that series, Olajuwon averaged 40 points a game. Like 40 points a game, 15 rebounds. He just absolutely destroyed them. So, yeah, that one is a little different because they do have one of the greatest players of all time on their team. Right. So yes, it is an upset. But I don't know. I think that's kind of unique. They won the championship, so I think that's in its own category.
Right.
I don't think it goes into it. So, yeah, to me, looking at the rest of them, I mean, there's a few, like 2012, the Sixers beat the Bulls, but that was because Derrick Rose got injured. So it's kind of that one, not quite the same. Memphis beat the Spurs in 2011. But to me, that was like Memphis just was a really tough matchup for that Spurs team.
Yeah, the Spurs, I think after that, they sort of changed up the way they were playing. So it was kind of right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great game, but that was also kind of like Memphis. I feel like Memphis, like they were really better than an 8 seed. That's not really the way that should have gone. Ginobili got hurt in the series. He still played okay, but he was not really full strength. So that one to me is up there. But so yeah, I think the '94 Nuggets and the '07 Warriors, to me, those are top two, and then I think the Heat are somewhere in the top 5 greatest upsets ever. Um, but that being said, the way the Heat played in the regular season, there's no way we were expecting this. Now
Yeah.
they did make the conference finals last year, right? So that is something else that they have that a lot of these teams that made these upsets don't have. Like the Heat,
Right.
they don't have that championship level, ability like some of these other teams that we just talked about. I think Denver lost in the next round, and then the '07 Warriors lost to the Utah Jazz in the next round. So those teams weren't really great teams. They just pulled off an incredible first round upset. So yeah, I'd put it third or fourth, as far as that list goes. That being said, incredible upset by the Heat. It doesn't change that. The fact anytime an 8 beats a 1. And the thing is that the Heat do have over everybody else. They beat them in 5.
Yeah.
Like they beat them in 5. Like it's not like
6 or 7. Yeah.
right. It's not like oh my God, this thing went down to the wire and they pulled something off. No, the Warriors took 6 games to beat the Mavericks. The Nuggets took all 5 games to beat the Sonics. Like even the Rockets beat the Spurs. It took them 6 games. Like so, that's pretty cool. I wrote this down even though I just asked the question: is this the best first round ever?
I don't know. I mean, maybe just because of you have these lower seeded teams that are not teams like that usually aren't lower seeded. So I mean, maybe.
I mean, the Heat beat the Bucks. The Lakers beat the Grizzlies. The Warriors
the
just
Hawks
beat.
series was interesting for a little while.
Right. Yeah, the Warriors beat the Kings in 7 games in a great series. Yeah, the Boston Celtics almost blew it to the Hawks.
I mean, hell, the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves actually had some pretty good games.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, but all I can say is I don't know if it's the best first round ever. I don't want to get crazy with hyperbole here. What I will say is I certainly haven't enjoyed the first round this much in a long time. Usually the first round
is really it's a procedural thing. It's like, all right, can we get this over with?
And Clark, here's my other. This is I think a better question. Is this going to happen more often because the regular season has been devalued so much? Or are we going to get this craziness in the first round because you have teams that end up lower seeded just because whatever happened in the regular season?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's just kind of like the Warriors being the 6th seed is just kind of odd.
Yeah.
The Lakers, I don't feel like if they had this team the whole year, I don't think they would have been this low of a seed.
Definitely
wouldn't
not.
have been in the play-in tournament, I don't think. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, Memphis, they're kind of immature, so even though they were a high seed, like, they, they didn't play.
And they had injuries. They
Yeah,
had
they
2 of their
did.
best guys out.
Yeah.
And so
it's tough.
that really hurt them. Yeah. So all right. So let's go through. We're gonna go through the eight playoff teams in the NBA that are left, and we're just gonna talk about. We're gonna point out their flaws and talk about which one we like the best.
Okay.
All right. So Denver, we already talked about. Never gonna be great on defense, but I think they can be solid, and with the offense that they have, I think that might be good enough.
Yeah.
For Phoenix, I think it's just I just put continuity. They haven't played together a lot of games, and they're going to have to try to figure this stuff out against a really good offensive team in Denver.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not playing some team where it's like, oh, we know what they're going to do. Like it's going to be difficult for them to figure all of that out, and a lot of the depth, the minutes. The fatigue, as a factor. Like, so, yeah, they've got, but their talent level is unbelievable.
Well, yeah,
but,
that's why, and I've said this before, I don't know if you can be a championship team with a top-heavy roster anymore. I don't know if that's still possible,
Right.
Because I just feel like there's gonna be injuries or something, and then plus you're dealing with, when you get into the playoffs, particularly when you get to the conference semifinals or the conference finals, you're usually dealing with teams where like they got a bunch of guys on the perimeter who can shoot threes and attack the basket and play defense. And I just don't know that there's so much skill in the NBA now compared to years past that I don't know if you can pull that off anymore. I mean,
Yeah,
LeBron did, but that was like 10 years ago.
I would agree. And I thought about this earlier. Like the Miami Heat at least had knockdown shooters. They had Mike Miller.
Right.
They had some guys who could really defend and make some shots. Shane Battier. Like they
but the skill level in the NBA now is better than it was then. I mean,
Yeah. And so I think you like building a team like this is this top heavy. You have to fit the perfect guys around them. You really have to make the roster make sense all around them because the depth of talent in the league is so good. And the thing is,
the Heat did that with prime LeBron. Okay?
Yep.
LeBron in his prime could cover up all kinds of flaws.
Right.
So
I told that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say that LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were in their prime. They're freak athletes, and they were ready to go. Durant is 35. If he's in his prime, he's at the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Booker's really young, so that really helps. He can really go, which you've seen that in the Clippers series. He was just unbelievable game after game. But Chris Paul's old.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like the way this team is constructed, like if he's just going to be a stand in the corner shooter, that's not going to work. That's not going to be a very good usage of him. Chris Paul's a good shooter. He's not a great shooter. So he's got to be able to do more than that. But Booker and Durant are going to have the ball all the time. So I think it's going to be just an issue of working all of that out. So the Lakers, I just put consistency. I just think they haven't played. They played more games than Phoenix has, but they haven't played a lot together. And you watch them play, and they're all over the place. They're up and down. They play really good defense in one half, and then the next half they're nowhere to be found. Offensively, in a quarter, they can just be spectacular and then not be able to make a shot. And it feels like the ball, they don't know where the ball's supposed to go. And, I hate to say this about one of the game's greatest players, I don't know what I'm getting from LeBron and Anthony Davis every game. I don't. Jason Timpf was going off on how great Anthony Davis's defensive performance was in the last game against Memphis. Yeah. We've seen it. They won the championship because of how good he was at it. But where was that in all the other games?
Yeah. I'm just going to keep saying this, and you've said this before too, LeBron doesn't have another gear like he used to. Okay. He's too old for that. And I'm watching these games and I'm like, it's different, in the past, like before LeBron won any titles, there'd be at the end of the game, you'd be like, he feels a little passive, maybe he's passing a little too, whatever. Now it just feels like he's conserving energy as much as he possibly can. I mean, part of it is you want to get your teammates going, which is good, and that's one of his strengths. But I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of holding back, and just kind of waiting around till he really, really, really needs to do something. And he sort of did in that one game, but then the next game he was totally exhausted because it's LeBron in year 20. So I just feel like they're gonna hit a certain point. It's gonna be like they need prime LeBron, and that's not there anymore. And so I just think that's because Anthony Davis he's gonna be inconsistent. We know this. This is what he's coming to. This is how he is. So I just feel like you're going to hit a certain point, and LeBron's not going to be able to push him over.
And you can see
Memphis, you can do that, but against some of these other teams, I don't think that's necessarily possible.
Yeah, and you can see it in the games. LeBron doesn't want to expend any more energy than he has to. He kind of feels it out in the first half, tries to get other guys going so he doesn't have to do as much. He'll run down from one end of the court to the other and just stand in the corner and not move. You can see what's going on. So I just don't. You're going to need a lot from the Lakers roster, and they have a lot of parts. They have a lot of good parts, but to put it all together and expect them to, be able to do this, and I'll
say this with prime LeBron, you could totally do it with this roster. He's got some perimeter defense.
I wouldn't even say prime LeBron. I'd say 3 years ago LeBron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be unbelievable. If 2020 LeBron was still here, he could really do something with this team. But yeah, so I just feel like they're just going to be too up and down. But that being said, they're going to have some really nice matchup advantages in this series. Davis, no one's going to be able to guard him. If he's playing well, he will be unstoppable. And so that's the advantage the Lakers have is their size, and they have to use it. The lineups where they have Davis and LeBron and Hachimura out there, they got to kick the Warriors' ass. That's what they have to do in order to beat them. They're not going to out execute them. They're not going to outshoot them. They're going to have to use their size to their advantage.
I think the Warriors offensively in this series, at the end of this series, I like what I've seen. I mean, Steph Curry's always doing his thing, but I feel like they're moving the ball better. They're getting more guys involved. Wiggins is getting a lot of playing time, and he's kind of getting back into, so I kind of like that. So I don't think the Lakers, they may have some quarters or something where they look really good offensively, but I don't, where they're really executing stuff, but I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing with them.
It's good. That series to me, it's going to go 6 or 7 games because LeBron and Anthony Davis will have 2 games where they're just awesome. That's it. They just will, and so they'll keep them in it. I mean, I could see it like a situation where Warriors are up 3-1, Lakers have an unbelievable game in Game 5, get it to 3-2, and then the Warriors finish them off in 6. I could see something like that happening. So for the Miami Heat, I just put firepower and size. They haven't gotten consistent play. You can't expect all these guys to be great, in this series now going forward. You can't just expect all of this stuff from Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love and Duncan Robinson. And, it's just going to be really hard for them to reproduce that. Defensively, they can hang in this series. But offensively, and the size thing could become an issue when they get Randall back. That could be a problem. And, the Heat probably have the lowest talent level in the playoffs on their team. So, just being honest here.
Going to the conference finals. So, you know what? Maybe I'm just an idiot.
Well, they're playing the Knicks. That's why they have a shot. I mean, that's the only reason. If they were playing, Philadelphia, although Embiid's hurt now. So for the Knicks, I just put offensive talent. They're unbelievable on defense, but they have a hard time getting to 100 points. It's a lot to put on Jalen Brunson, and they don't have great shooting. It's okay. So we'll see how it goes. But their size and rebounding will really help them.
Yeah.
But the Knicks the games have to go the Knicks' way. If the Heat come in and shoot 40% from 3, the Knicks are in trouble. Yeah. Because they don't have the firepower to keep up. Celtics, same thing. I've been complaining about the Celtics for 3 years. Offensive identity late in games. I just feel like the wrong guys are taking the shots in the fourth quarter. They become really stagnant. It's just Tatum taking step-back threes. And the way they played in this series against Atlanta, you can tell me, oh, well, they don't really take Atlanta seriously. They don't really, they weren't really motivated to, get the series over with and blah, blah, blah. It's like championship teams don't do that. Championship teams don't blow double-digit leads in fourth quarters when you have a chance to end the series in 5. They don't do that. They finish it off.
Well, and by the way, the end of Game 6, the Celtics just made their threes. So,
yep.
Horford made one, and then I think Tatum might have made a step-back 3 or something. So, it's like, yeah, if they make their threes at the end of the game, yeah, it's fine. But, Tatum, he just loves doing that step-back 3. He'll just he'll pull that out all the time, and it's like, all right.
And listen, it's funny. The Suns probably need to take less mid-range jumpers. The Celtics need to take more. Jaylen Brown and Tatum, they need to be taking mid-range jumpers, especially in the fourth quarter, because you can get that shot anytime you want it, and you'll make it at a higher percentage. Threes can go bye-bye real quick. For the Warriors, I just put defense and production from guys other than Curry. That to me, I think is the issue. Curry's going to get 30 every game. We might as well just mark it down. That's what's going to happen. So you're not going to stop him. But you cannot allow these other guys to go off. You cannot allow Looney to have 20 offensive or 20 rebounds in a game. You can't allow Jordan Poole to get going. That's what it's going to come down to. Also their age and lack of athleticism. That could be an issue. The Lakers do have some guys that are pretty athletic. That's basically what their weakness is inside play, guarding the rim, I put the same thing for the Kings when I was talking about them. Defending the rim is going to be the issue. So, I mean, I guess we've already kind of talked about this, but I mean, which flaw do I like the best? The way these teams are, Clark, this is why I like Denver. There's no great defensive team, really. Right? The Celtics are capable of playing great defense, but we haven't seen it. So if we're going to say that there's no like unbelievable defense in this, then I kind of like Denver to get to the finals. Could they beat? Not kind of. I like Denver to go to the finals. Let's be definitive here. In the East, I mean, the Celtics should be going to the finals, and it looks like Embiid's going to be out at least game one, maybe more than that. So the Celtics should, but it's just like, are we going to watch this? Are the Celtics going to do this shit? And it would just be the funniest thing is that the Celtics, if they beat the Sixers, assuming they beat the Sixers, they'd have to play the Heat or the Knicks. Two teams that give them a really hard time. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally the two teams that you don't want to see. The Knicks beat the Celtics, I think, all 3 games this year. Like it's So that being said, yeah, I do like the Celtics' flaws the best. I feel like it can be corrected. I haven't seen it yet, but it can be corrected. We'll see if it gets through them. But it does really concern me. The Celtics have a rookie head coach. He's going to be going up against. I mean, once they win this series against the Sixers, I'm not predicting it, but I'm assuming they do. He's going to have to go up against Spoelstra and Thibodeau. They're good coaches. They don't let you just do what you want to do. So it does worry me about the Celtics. I am far less worried about Denver because I feel like they beat this really talented Suns team. I think it's going to be really hard for the Warriors or the Lakers to beat them.
Yeah.
All right. So let me get to my ridiculous take. This pissed me off this week. Really kind of annoys me. So Stephen A. Smith on First Take after the Clippers got eliminated said Kawhi, this man needs to retire. Okay. Why does he think he gets to decide what happens with other players' careers? And then he's like, no, I'm not saying, Kawhi, I'm saying the Clippers should force him to retire. Okay, so what does that mean? They pay him? They still pay him though, or what? Like the Clippers should tell him he needs to retire? Like what are you talking about? Like, okay, I have no problem with us talking about the Clippers being disappointing, okay, and all of that. Oh, they shouldn't do this. This is year 4. Why didn't they get this done? But we shouldn't be talking about what decision someone should make, with their career.
Right.
Like you want to say, even you want to go, hey, the Clippers should trade him. You want to say stuff like that. That's fine. I think it's ludicrous, but you can say that and I'm good with it. But saying this guy should retire? Like, get the hell out of here. It's absolute nonsense. Like, no, he shouldn't retire. And then you got Mad Dog Russo is saying, guys used to play through injuries. Kevin McHale played with a broken foot in the 87 finals. Why can't Kawhi play through it anyway? Okay, he's got a torn meniscus. You can't play through that. You can't play through a torn hamstring. You can't play through a torn ACL.
Also, Kevin McHale, that's one extreme example.
Right.
Okay, and also Larry Bird has said, yeah, Kevin McHale doesn't walk that well now.
Right. He shouldn't have been playing, okay? Like this idea that it really bothers me that no one's doing their homework. No one's stating the obvious. Kawhi has a chronic injury issue. This isn't just, he just happened to get hurt this time. No, this is a chronic thing that happens with this guy's knees. He's got bad knees. It's been going on for 4 years ago. Since 4 years ago when we watched him drag his leg around the court in the NBA Finals. It's not new. They knew this when they got him. Okay? So the other thing is, and then I turned on NBA Countdown the other day before I forget, I don't know which game it was before one of the games, and Stephen A. Smith, they're talking about Mike Budenholzer, and Stephen A. Smith's like, yeah, I don't want to speculate on whether he should be fired or not. I don't call for guys to be fired, but guys to retire, that's okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's no problem. So this just annoys the shit out of me. It's like, really? That's what you're going to do to try to get clicks and try to get attention on television is say that he should retire? Like, it's absolute nonsense. No, no, I'm sorry. It didn't work out. The Paul George injury was just a freak thing that happened in the game. There was nothing you could do about that. And then Kawhi, yeah, this is kind of how it goes with Kawhi. It's not Kawhi's fault. Okay? Yeah. He's not going, you know what? I don't really feel like it. I'm just going to, that's not what's happening. Like anybody who's talked about this, any former player, are all telling you Kawhi works as hard as anybody. Like he works his ass off to get out there. Like he wants nothing more than to play. Okay, this is not anybody's fault. They got themselves into this situation. Shit happens. No, he doesn't need to retire because you say so. The Clippers need to figure out what they're going to do, but they kind of, and besides that, in the NBA, you really don't have much of a choice. This isn't the NFL where you can just cut people and just get rid of them. Right. That's not how it works. He's getting $40 million next year. You can't, So anyway, go ahead. I'll let you respond to that.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, I think I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where, like, everybody lumps everything together so that people are pissed off about load management, and then they go, oh, well, Kawhi has to do this, and it's like, well, maybe he's doing that, And then, of course, with load management, the thing that really pisses me off is, and this has been discussed, actually, somewhat, it's not just the players who sit out, it's the teams telling them to sit out.
It's mostly the teams.
Exactly.
That's who it is.
Yeah. So, and plus, and we talked about this, before, but it's just like, I don't, would playing more lead to less injuries or does playing less lead to more injuries? I don't know. Like, if someone can show me the data on that, fine, but I don't think we really have data on that to show, exactly what's going on with that. So
all we do is compare it to the past. Like JJ Redick was on his podcast saying he's watching, one of the Lakers Celtics finals games, and like they used to just set up three guys on the block. One guy on one side, one guy on the other side, and one guy like at the elbow. And then they would just back screen for each other. So they weren't even having to move all the way across the court to cover people. The game is so much more difficult, difficult to play now. It's so cardio based, right? It is way more difficult to play now. Like that's why they're taking these guys out of games. And it's like guys are going to get injured. Yeah, guys are going to get injured. I get that. But this, I thought about that. Well, maybe if they practiced more, maybe their bodies would be ready, more hardened to be more prepared for it. But I don't think that's the case. The more and more I hear about it, like you think the teams are stupid? Like, they're not doing this for no reason. It's not because everybody's soft and the league was better in the 90s. Like that, that just can't possibly be the case.
Yeah. Again, it's just one of those things that everyone, it's an easy villain to have. Load management is just an easy thing to rip on. And it's just a great sports radio topic. And so people just hammer this home whenever they get the chance to. And again, they lump everything in. So a guy misses games. Oh, let's, I mean, Anthony Davis, if you want to criticize him because people feel like he doesn't get himself in the best shape that he can. Okay.
Or Zion.
I can understand that. But that's a different, if Kawhi's getting himself in good shape and then just getting hurt because he's got, knee issues, then okay. Like it's hard for me to rip the guy for that, And I mean, some older players, they get banged up a lot, because they've been playing a bunch over the course of their career. So I don't know how we can necessarily, it's just, guys miss games, stars miss games. And this is just kind of the way it's going to go. I don't, there's all kinds of stuff. People will just say, well, people used to play back in the day. And it's just like, well, I mean, in a lot of sports, you didn't really have a choice. I mean, in the NFL, you don't really have a choice. If you want to, for the most part, if you want to stay on the field, you better get your ass out there because they'll just cut.
Well, for most players in the NBA, that's the case. Like they were talking to, when they did this podcast with JJ Redick and they had CJ McCollum and Jose Alvarado on. And Alvarado's like, I'm playing. I'm trying to get a contract. Like I can't, I can't sit out. Like I don't have a choice. So we're only talking about the teams where they've invested a lot of money in that player, So, and even then, Alvarado was injured, when they were in the playoffs. So, look, I just find it. I think it's horrific that Stephen A. Smith would be saying what somebody should do with their career. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. You want to criticize the Clippers, that's fine. But this whole he should retire, like, come on, man. It's weak. Do better.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, so let's move on from that. So we'll talk about the draft. Well, we'll talk about the draft in a minute. But let's talk about the Aaron Rodgers trade. So
finally done.
Aaron Rodgers was at the Knicks game today.
Yep.
Looks like New York is happy. They got Aaron Rodgers. The Knicks are doing well in the playoffs. The Rangers are still alive.
Yeah, Game
Man,
7 is
tomorrow, I think.
Rangers Devils. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So it's everything's popping in New York right now. But
yeah.
so I want to say we talked about this before about the Jets trying to be stingy about getting a quarterback. And, like I vehemently disagree with all the people that are like, how could the Jets give up this much? They got fleeced. Mike Florio sitting there, they got fleeced. Bill Simmons is like, what are you, stupid? How could you possibly do this? Are you retarded? It's just like it's the worst move of all time. So, Clark, I'll just ask you the $1 million question. Did the Jets give up too much?
So what all did they give up again?
Okay, so they swapped first rounders with Green Bay this year. They gave up their second round pick this year, a second round pick next year that becomes a first round pick if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps, which he will. So they basically gave up a first round pick next year and a sixth rounder this year. They did get a fifth rounder back from Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. So
they already have a lot of talent on offense and defense. So I mean, at this point, and the coach and the GM, they need to win. So I don't really see the problem with kind of going all in. I mean, you got to win to keep your job. That's what one of the things that kind of annoys me. People don't factor that in when they think about or talk about the decisions that teams make. Yep. I mean, the coaches and the GMs, they're trying to keep their jobs. Okay, they need to win to keep their jobs, because if they lose, they're going to get fired. Then they got to move. They got to move their kids. They got to take their kids out of school. They got to sell their house. It's a whole thing. Like, I understand that because they're in a sport that's so popular, people think that they're just totally. It's like no, they're kind of just like. Granted, they make a lot more money, but they're kind of just like you and me. So. They need to win, and you know what? They've got enough on offense and defense where you can justify going all in, because the quarterback is the most important position. And Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer who's won the Super Bowl. He's won, I think, 4 MVPs. So, you could, when your quarterback is Zach Wilson, and Mike White's now in the Dolphins, but I mean, what are you going to do?
And to your point, right? Steve Keim was on the Dan Patrick Show. He's on a couple other places, and they asked him the question: if you could go back, would you have still taken Kyler Murray, or would you have taken Joey Bosa or Nick, but one of the Bosas? Number one, he's like, well, Kyler Murray got me an extension. Yeah. That's why he took Kyler Murray number one. Okay. Like, because they had just screwed up with Josh Rosen, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to take the quarterback because that's what matters. Like I hate to, I don't understand why this is foreign to people. The quarterback is all that matters in the NFL, guys. The times have changed. The period of time where you could do it with defense and good line play and running the ball and an average quarterback is over. It's done. See ya. You have to have a top-level quarterback, especially in the AFC, or you're done.
Yeah.
So you can criticize the Jets for getting themselves into this situation. Okay, that's fair, because they did.
Zach Wilson.
Right. They did do a lot of dumbass stuff to get themselves in this situation. But now that they're in this situation, I'm sorry, I don't really care about a first-round pick. Are you going to get a first-round pick next year that's as good as Aaron Rodgers?
Doubtful.
Not a chance. Not to point, and I also like to point out, everybody said after this draft, this was a weaker draft. There were 15 to 17 players with a first-round grade in this draft. So half the players in the first round aren't really even first-round players anyway.
Yep.
So what did they really give up? And the Jets had already acquired another second-round pick for this year, so they still had a second-round pick this year.
Right.
Okay? So I'm sorry. You can trade other guys and get more draft capital in other ways. The Rams just won the Super Bowl by giving up all their first-round picks. So, I'm sorry, no, they did not get fleeced. No, they did not give up too much. You can't give up too much for a quarterback.
Okay, if you wanted to say, well, maybe they should have drafted a guy this year. Well, first of all, the guys this year aren't, I don't think they really may not end up being that good. I don't think Bryce Young's going to last. Even if he does, I mean, C.J. Stroud he's in a bad position to be on a team with a defensive coach. And even if you're like, well, maybe the Jets could have tried to get somebody in the second round. Okay, fine. You want to get Will Levis or Hendon Hooker instead of Aaron Rodgers? Like, again, those two guys haven't
Right.
played in the NFL, so I don't really know how they're going to be. But I mean, you don't think Aaron Rodgers is better than them already? I mean, come on.
Okay, so we got that down. No, the Jets did not give up too much, and you were exactly right. The coach and the GM trying to save their jobs. That's what happens. By the way, we're Dolphins fans. We know. Our GM is like a riverboat gambler. All of a sudden, for 7 years, he didn't do a damn thing, and now all of a sudden, he's like, "We're trading for this guy. We're getting this guy. We're doing this. We're doing." He's moving and shaking like crazy.
McDaniel, this is his first NFL head coaching job, so he wants to win.
Right.
Because if your first job you lose, you could end up, you got to go back you got to kind of go back through the rotation and do some assistant coaching for a while until you get another shot. Okay,
right.
A lot of times that's what happens. And really, you only get maybe 2 shots to be a head coach in the NFL.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
So you got to win.
Right, exactly. So we're in agreement on that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, could we slow down the Jets hype train, please?
Yeah. Have you heard of the Bengals? Have you heard of the Bills? Have you heard of the Jaguars? Have you heard of the Chargers? Have you heard of I'm trying to think. There's probably some other team.
Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens. Hey, the Browns. Deshaun Watson maybe is shirked off some rust, or maybe he went to a massage parlor. Anyway,
got a nice rub down before the season.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no. Listen, like guys, let's just we'll lay it out right now. I'm gonna go in. It's May. What is it? Is it May? April 30th, right? Okay, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in right now. Jets are not gonna go to the Super Bowl. They're on the list. Okay, they're not going to the Super Bowl. Now listen, and so I'm listening to Dan Patrick, and he's like, "Oh no, their ceiling, their expectations should be AFC Championship game or bust." And I'm like, I laughed out loud. I was like, "What are you smoking?"
I feel like their ceiling should be like
make the playoffs.
Their absolute ceiling should be like divisional round.
Right.
And I feel like if they don't make the playoffs, that's a failure.
Right. Well, but it's going to be tough. The AFC is really tough.
Yeah.
Not only that, their division is tough. Jason McIntyre on Cowherd Show is going, "Oh, the Jets are clearly better than the Dolphins. Clearly." And I'm just going, really? Like,
it's close. I mean,
right.
It's again like some of it. I mean, I want to see what the Dolphins' schedule is. Who are they playing at home? Who are they playing on the road? And then the health of Tua, obviously. But I mean, the Jets. I mean, guys, are we forgetting this? When again, the Jets should have gotten Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying they shouldn't have, but last year Aaron Rodgers didn't really do much in the offseason with the new receivers, and it took like half the year for them to kind of get it rolling a little bit. Now, I think Aaron Rodgers may have had some sort of injury last year, but yeah, it took him a little while to get rolling with everything. So he's going to a completely new place. So I feel like there's going to be some, and also his offensive coordinator is a guy whose judgment that, we kind of don't really trust that much. Nathaniel Hackett, if you remember his disastrous tenure as the Denver Broncos head coach. So
yeah, but at least he's the OC and not the head coach. So, but that being said, look, they just have a good team. Like I'm not saying
they definitely have a good team.
But if they get, but all the thing is, all the Jets needed last year was reasonable quarterback play, and they would have made the playoffs. So, Aaron Rodgers can do reasonable. He can be, he can be solid for you. So listen, no, I think the Jets have a nice team. I think they could definitely have a shot at the playoffs, but I'm not. There's no way they're beating Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence or whatever. Josh Allen. They're not beating them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So, but that being said, I think the Jets did what they had to do. This is what you got to do. They gave up a first-round pick. Who cares? Like, we're turning this into, like it really matters. At the end of the day, it's going to matter how you play on the field. Not that, they gave up a first-round pick. You can't do that. I just love these football nerds who are like, you can't give up a first-round pick because according to my draft calculator, it doesn't fit into. It's like, what the.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like, get out of here. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about the draft. So when I watch the draft as a Dolphins fan, this is how I look at it. Who am I jealous of? Okay? I'm jealous of the Eagles The Eagles got three more Georgia guys on their defense. So they have 2 Georgia defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, and a corner from that unbelievable defense from 2 years ago. Man, I mean, that was a hell of a job. The Seattle Seahawks, getting they got the receiver, the best receiver in the draft from Ohio State, and then they got that unbelievable corner from Illinois. So Seattle now has 2 really good corners. They drafted another running back. So they've got 2 or 3 good running backs, both tackles they drafted last year on their offensive line, both starters, both playing awesome. And then they took some more defensive guys. Damn. As a Dolphins fan looking at that roster going, oh, I'm really jealous. I really am. And, Geno, we can complain about Geno Smith. I mean, he doesn't get hurt like Tua does, and he probably plays about just as well. So, I really like that. But anyway, but we'll moving on. What I found really fascinating about the draft, and I laughed out loud, was all the ridiculous nonsense that gets told to us, especially the week before the draft. Okay, C.J. Stroud was dropping. Oh, I don't know, man. He didn't go to the Manning Passing Academy, and we don't like what he did on the S2 test. I don't. Oh yeah, we're kind of down on him. Whatever. The other thing is that we love Will Levis. We love Will Levis. The Colts are not going to let Will Levis get past him. They're taking him. No doubt. Absolutely. They're taking Will Levis. And it's just like, I just couldn't believe it. I'm just like, first of all, this makes absolutely no sense. CJ Stroud is the second. Some people say he's the best quarterback in the draft. There is no way he's going past number 2. I'm like, I don't know what we're thinking about Houston, why they wouldn't do it. And of course they announced it, and I'm like, yeah, of course he went number 2, because we all knew he was going to go number 2. We knew since last college football season ended, we knew he was going number. It was like, duh, obviously. Oh, and the other thing, getting back to Bryce Young. So I'm watching, he gets drafted, and Booger McFarland's on there. Hey, man, all the quarterbacks get hurt, so why am I worried about size?
Okay, here we go. I had already thought of this. Ready? Okay. Patrick Mahomes hurt his leg in the playoffs, played through it. Okay. Joe Burrow's probably got tons of injuries because his offensive line's terrible. He keeps playing. Unless he tears his ACL, he's out there playing. Okay. Josh Allen hurt his elbow early in the season. He played through it. Justin Herbert bruised his ribs and played through it. Okay. The deal is, when you're bigger, there's some injuries you can play through. You know why? Because you have a stronger arm, so you can compensate for lower body stuff. Tua, he gets injured, he's got to sit out because he can't, he's not going to be able to throw the ball well enough to play, Right. Plus, he's more likely to get more seriously injured. So, let's, and Kyler Murray's been getting hurt, okay? So, all the quarterbacks are going to get hurt. It's the NFL. It's a really risky sport, but the deal is, when you're bigger, your body type's better able to absorb that. You can play through it, okay? Yep. Smaller guys, they can't.
Bigger, better athletes last longer. Period. Even if you're a smaller athlete, you better be able to run really fast to get away from people, which Russell Wilson was able to do for several years until he got hurt, a couple years ago. And Kyler Murray's been getting hurt too. Right. So. No, it's absolutely factual, guys. We're not favoring big guys. That's not how this works. We're not shitting on the small guys. It's the bottom line fact base of the business. That's how it works. The other thing was that, the Will Levis thing, the Colts love him, blah, blah, blah. They're definitely, it's no doubt. Irsay is saying all these cryptic, messages on social media or whatever. And it comes up and it's like, hey, take Anthony Richardson. Why'd they take Anthony Richardson? Because both of those quarterbacks are projects, but they took the guy who's just a better player. He's just a better athlete, better prospect. That's what it came down to. And you saw, I do feel bad that the NFL got this wrong, that they had Will Levis in the green room the whole time and didn't get picked in the first round. I do feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's it never made any sense. It never made any sense to me that these guys were so hyped about quarterbacks and that they were going to take Hendon Hooker in the first round too. It's why? The thing is, logically, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just wait till the second round? Like the guy can't even like. There's no way he's playing the first year. So why
Yeah.
so why would you do that? It just kind of blew my mind. That it made me laugh that we went through all of this nonsense, and then Colin Cowherd comes on and goes, yeah, but I heard Will Levis is kind of arrogant and they really didn't like his personality and he's all about me and blah blah blah. And it's like, that had nothing to do with it either. Okay, he's just not physically as good. If I'm going to take a project, I'm going to take the one with the higher upside, which is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Like it's not hard to figure out. It's so simple. It's right in front of your face. Don't overthink the room. So overall, so let's go through the quarterbacks. What did you think of them? I think there's a lot worse places that Bryce Young could go. I do think Frank.
This is probably given the options. This is probably the best place to go.
Yeah, I think it could be something. I think Frank Reich obviously he was a quarterback. He knows how to coach quarterbacks. That's what you really need. You need the guy who's going to put their arm around him, know how to put him in the best situation and protect him. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to be the question. Are you going to protect the guy or not? Because if you just I know Joe Burrow has basically worked out, but the first year they had him throwing 35, 40 times a game and he blew out his knee. And so I just think if they take care of him the right way, he's got a chance. But if it were me, I would never make that kind of trade to move up to number 1 to take him. I just wouldn't do it. I'm not going after the small guy because they don't work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work long term. We've talked about this before. Colin Cowherd's whole thing. Well, I think it's fine to draft him. He's probably only going to last 2 years, but no. You don't draft a guy number 1. No, you draft a guy because you think he's going to be on your team for the next 10 years, and he's going to be a starter.
My belief is, because by the way, this is the history of small quarterbacks, right? Either there's a couple of them that are great, or they can't play. Yeah. Name me the small quarterback that's kind of average, like Kirk Cousins. Name them. There isn't one.
Yeah, no.
They're not average. They're either great or shitty. There's not much. There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Like, if you're betting on this, you're betting that Bryce Young's going to be great. So he can't just be kind of good for 2 or 3 years and get banged up. That's not what you're drafting. You didn't give up all that to get a guy who can't really play. CJ,
guys, he's so small, compared to the other quarterbacks who have been successful. I don't see the really elite athletic ability or just elite arm talent. So I just feel like he's not going to have enough to carry him through. And again, Carolina's the best spot. Now, CJ Stroud, he's I think he's a better prospect than Bryce Young is, but he's in a shitty situation because we've seen college quarterback go to the NFL and be coached by a defensive coach, and it doesn't really work out that well. That's why Tua had his best year last year when he had an offensive coach. So CJ Stroud is kind of I feel like he's got a chance to be pretty good, but I feel like he's really screwed going to that situation.
Yeah, I think my thought on CJ Stroud is I think he can be a solid quarterback in the NFL. I think the Jared Goff comparison is appropriate. I think he could be a good player. Do I think he's going to be great? Probably not. So it does worry me that he's going to a bad team.
Right.
With a defensive head coach. What I do like, though, is he took the D'Amico Ryan's got the passing game coordinator from the 49ers. So if they're running the 49ers offense, Stroud could do that. He's got the kind of game where he's accurate enough and good enough throwing the ball, and he's got the size. I think that might be able to be something. We'll see if they build the right thing around him. But the problem is it's pretty bare. So it's an issue. Anthony Richardson, I mean, who the hell knows? Like, I think they've got to sit him, and it came out like a story that they said they think he's going to learn or develop faster if he plays more. We'll see about that. I don't know how well that's going to work. But the Colts, kind of like the Panthers, they have the building blocks of something. They have a good running back. They have some good offensive linemen. They have some stuff that it's not like, oh, there's nothing there that he can't improve. And they have an offensive coach. They have Shane Steichen, who was coaching Jalen Hurts. So that I think has a chance. I think it could be a lot worse. Like this is not a terrible situation that he's going to. So I think he's got a chance. The other ones, I mean, Hendon Hooker got drafted with the Lions. I think that's a good situation for him. They have a good offense. If he can work himself into being the backup, maybe he could eventually be the starter one day. Who knows? Right. Will Levis went to Tennessee, and I think that's a pretty good deal for him because again, they still have Tannehill for one more year, so they don't have to play Levis. He gets to come in motivated, pissed off that he didn't get drafted in the first round. It's a solid culture. So I think it might end up being the best thing for him if he works hard enough. I was a little confused. The Rams drafted Stetson Bennett in the 4th round, which, I mean, I was concerned he wasn't going to get drafted at all. And then the Rams took him. The Rams only have Stafford on the roster, and then they draft Stetson Bennett, and it's kind of like. Yeah. I mean, there's no way Stetson Bennett is your backup quarterback next year. Like, if that's the case, you're in some trouble. Like, I don't think that's an awesome move. I was again, as a Dolphins fan, where I was jealous. The Browns drafted Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. I believe Chris Sims is hyping him up a little bit. I do believe in him. Obviously the Dolphins weren't going to draft him, but. Whatever. Right. So the other questions I had was, so the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson. Like, he's a really good player, but the Falcons, and again, like the Lions, their defense sucks. Like, I know they drafted running back, and he might be a really good player. I'm not shitting on the player themselves or the pick. I'm shouting on the way that you're building your team, and you got to build it from the inside out. The way the Eagles have done it is the way that you do it, and so I think that same thing with the Lions. The Lions drafted a running back at 12th, Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama, who again I think he might be really good, especially in their offense. I think he might be really good, but they have 2 running backs. Like, they didn't need that, and it's like, I guess in a draft that's kind of, it's a little weaker. Maybe you just take the guys, who are really talented. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, and then the Lions took like a middle linebacker with their next pick in the 1st round. It's just kind of like, I don't know, man. I feel like they should have taken a defensive lineman or a pass rusher. They should have taken a corner, somebody at an impact position on their defense, because they kind of needed it. I don't think it's terrible because the Lions are actually pretty good. The Falcons, it's like, man, they better be good on offense because their defense is gonna suck.
Yeah, well, their team is like run first. They're really trying to. Well, they were playing when they were playing Mariota. They were Mariota, yeah. Lunch. So I don't know if they're trying to do the same thing with Desmond Ridder, but.
Yeah, the Houston, just to go back to the Houston Texans, like, so they draft Stroud and then they give up a 1st round pick next year and something else to move up to get Will Anderson. Like, and Will Anderson's not like a home run pass rusher. Like, he's got a 1st round grade, but he's not a Bosa. He's not, a freak show that, oh my God, we got to get this guy. He's not Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of like Houston, like I really feel like Houston should have just taken Jalen Carter and been like, all right, we'll figure it out and we'll get a quarterback next year. I feel like that was exactly the team that should have said, we're just going to sit out this. We're not going to draft a quarterback who we don't think is going to be great. We're going to wait it out. I feel like that's the one team that really should have done that.
Well, and the thing is, as much as I agree with that, I don't think you can do that because the problem is, sometimes the decision is being made by the owner or being made by the GM, and, or the GM's being forced by the owner to pick something. And the thing is, it's a fear-based decision because basically, if you don't draft the guy and then he's really good, you look bad,
Right.
Even though odds are, maybe one of these quarterbacks is good, maybe. I don't think any of them are going to be Hall of Fame level, Pro Bowl level, like really great players. I mean, Maybe I could be wrong, but statistically speaking, no. But the problem
Right.
is that it looks really bad if you were there and you didn't draft them, and then they go on and be really good.
Yeah, and it's been rumored that their GM Nick Casario might be fired, and they might have a replacement already. So yeah, they probably needed to do this move. You're absolutely right, and that's probably what got in the way of maybe cooler heads. Corey, I feel like this is something that happens in basketball too, where it's like you got to be patient. Like I don't think you need to be as patient in the NFL, but there still need to be patient and build it the way that you know how. Like
Right.
that's kind of like it's underrated. These teams like, oh, we got to win right now, blah blah blah. And it's like in the NBA, you can't do that at all because players have to develop because they come in when they're 19. Like you really have to be patient and wait the thing out. And I feel like in the NFL, the teams that do that are the teams that win. Like
Yeah.
those are the teams that do it. So before we get out of here, let's talk about the Dolphins pick. So the Dolphins took a corner from South Carolina, which they needed a corner because Xavier Howard's getting kind of old. So and I don't know that they're going to hang on to Jalen Ramsey forever. So they definitely needed a corner. I thought that was a need position because their secondary was so beat up and not very good anyway last year. And they got a running back from Texas A&M, which I don't know if you watched any of the Texas A&M games. This guy is crazy speed. He's got he runs the 4.340. So he's a freak show. So I think it could be really cool to watch this guy in their offense, especially as a receiver, because they got Wilson and Mostert at running back, but they're going to get injured. They've been getting injured their whole career. You know what's going to happen. So I feel like that was a pretty smart move by the Dolphins. They only had 4 picks in this draft, but I feel like for what they had, they did okay. There wasn't really an offensive lineman there. They didn't have a first round pick, unfortunately, to use. So, but it does still bothers me and will continue to bother me the whole season that when we talk about teams that need a quarterback, the Dolphins aren't included. They should be included every single time. I don't understand how we can sit here and go, oh, we're fine. It's all good. You saw like either days before the draft or while the draft was going on, the Bengals and the Chargers picked up the 5th-year option for Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. The Dolphins decided to do it 6 weeks ago because why wait and make the best decision when you can just make a decision right away?
Right.
So just blows my mind. More stuff I can get angry about.
Yeah. So real quick, let's talk about. I wanted to talk about Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
I guess they've agreed on a contract now.
Yep.
So, to all the people who were in the media who were hyperventilating about this, and like Dan Lebitard, oh, this is offensive. How can you do this to this guy? And blah, that stuff. And then Nick Wright's like, oh, he's never going to play in a Baltimore Ravens uniform ever again. The relationship is completely destroyed. Whatever, guys. This really shouldn't be that hard to understand. It's business, okay? When you get into contract negotiations, I don't care what your job is, things can get, a little contentious. Okay?
Right.
Particularly because Lamar Jackson didn't have an agent. That's part of the reason this got as contentious as it did. Okay? But look, when you're on Lamar's side, you're trying to get as much money as you can, particularly guaranteed money. When you're on the Ravens side, you're like, well, we don't want to give a fully guaranteed contract for various reasons. And both sides kind of stuck to their guns. And eventually, you kind of figure out, well, the Ravens are like, all right, well, we'll offer you more guaranteed money. And eventually Lamar Jackson's like, all right, let's do this. Okay? That's how this stuff goes, And people are like, oh, well, how is he going to move on from this? The same way plenty of players move on from this stuff. This is what happens, This is, you need to know the score, when you're an employee, okay? Essentially, right. For the most part, in most jobs, when you're an employee, you can get fired at any time for any reason, okay? So, you know that going in, yet we still go to work, because that's kind of how these things go. And especially in the NFL, we've seen this plenty of times. It'll be fine. He'll go into training camp. They got Odell Beckham Jr. now. They got they drafted a young receiver last year. They were really good last year. So, he'll keep playing for them.
Lamar, the thing is, like,
what his ceiling is.
The thing is, because Lamar doesn't say a whole lot, everybody started speaking for him. Lamar always said he wanted to play for Baltimore. He wanted to stay there. The Ravens always said, we want him. So, I mean, it can't be that much of a shock to people that they figured it out. Like, it just amazes me that we wasted like 2 months of just everybody, I don't know, all this hemming and hawing about it. And Jalen Hurts got the deal, and Baltimore went, okay, how about that? We give you the Jalen Hurts deal. We add $5 million onto it. What do you think?
Yeah.
He's like, okay. So again, and the agent thing, it would have helped, but it was blown up a little bit. Right? You don't need, if you just put a lawyer in there, they can negotiate it, figure out your contract for you. You're a star player. It's not that difficult.
Right.
You know what I mean? What he really would have needed an agent for was if he was trying to get traded to another team. That's what really made it extra complicated, but yeah, they had a little bit of they debated over it, and everybody's like, and the idea of these people, I blame the Ravens screwed this up. They should have had blah, blah, blah. It's like, they were offering Lamar this basic deal. He just wouldn't accept it.
Right.
So I think it came to the point where Lamar's like, you know what? I'm going to get this money. You know what? I'm going to get my money. And the thing is, the fact that it's not fully guaranteed, he's still going to get all of it. Like, okay, he gets injured a little bit. So what? What do you think? They're just going to get rid of him? Like, they know he's going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's a lineman where it's like, oh, well, we'll just bring in this other guy. That's not how this works. So, yeah, I think it is hysterical that we all went nuts on this and everybody lost their minds. Oh, my God, what are we going to do? This is a disaster, and it's fine. It's fine. He gets $180 million guaranteed, which is what he was always probably going to get, and it's all good.
Yeah, and like I said, we see this happen in sports sometimes. You get contentious contract negotiations, and then they work it out, and it's fine. It's like with Derek Jeter. Remember, he was trying to get his last contract with the Yankees, and it was like, why is this taking so long? And blah, and they go back and forth, and then finally they agree on something, and then we all forget about it. So I just wanted to point that out because I feel like vindicate. Well, I guess I really wasn't necessarily saying that I thought that they were going to work this out. I was kind of critical of the way Lamar Jackson handled things to an extent, but also. Colin Cowherd with this whole, Lamar Jackson's noisy. No, he's not.
Thank you.
If you thought he was noisy about this, fine, but not anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I don't that's what I really don't like. I don't like that Lamar's being painted by some people as like a bad guy or difficult to deal with. It's complete bullshit. Like, if you're going to say stuff, at least have an idea what the hell you're talking about. At no point has Lamar given any indication that he's a bad guy or difficult to deal with or any of that. He doesn't really talk to us for the most part. He puts some stuff on social media, but for the most part, and he's not out here whining about it. Right. It's completely ridiculous. Drives me freaking crazy. So I'm glad that he got his deal done. I'm glad we don't have to sit here and worry about it all the time anymore. He's all set, and in 5 years, he'll probably sign another deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we got some hockey to watch and, looking forward to the playoffs. Can't wait to see what happens. Huge win by the Warriors today. Huge win by the Heat today. And so we'll see how it goes this week. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and talk to everybody next week.